Call the City of Ojai Building Appeals Board meeting for September 11, 2019 into session. If we may, we'll start with the let's start with the roll call first and the Pledge of Allegiance, rather than just reading this stuff. You were ahead of things.
Okay. Chair Ulrich.
Present.
Member Daddy.
Present.
Member Murphy.
Here.
Member Farmer.
Here.
And myself, Hanson, here.
Very good. In that case, then we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Board Member Murphy, if you wish.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Public communications. There does not appear to be any public in the audience. Public communications at the time set aside during the Building Appeals Board meeting for members of the public to address the Building Appeals Board on items of city business other than scheduled agenda items. Matters raised at this time may be briefly discussed by the board and will generally be referred to staff and or placed on a subsequent agenda. Under state law, other than for emergency items, no action on non-agendized items can be taken at this meeting. Building officials report.
No report?
Okay. Consent item number 1 is the minutes of the May 22, 2019 meeting. Has it been that long?
Yes, sir.
And it's really hard to remember.
Yes, well, in my review of it, I don't have any exceptions. Has anyone else taken any? Excuse me?
I make a motion that we approve.
Okay. Consent items of voice vote, isn't it? Or do we need a roll call?
A roll call? Oh,
No, I said that was a question, or do we need?
I don't think so.
Okay, good. In that case, then we've consented to it. Yes, fine.
Yes.
Very good. Discussion item number 2, amendments to the 2019 California Building Code, and recommendations. Consider a recommendation of council regarding amendments to the California Building Code. So at that point, I'm going to turn it over to the building official.
Thank you, Chair. So, as we discussed in the last meeting, we tried to we're going to adopt Chapter 7A and modify it to the same standards that we applied to the residential code for high fire construction, which lowers the limitations of the fire severity zone and requires a higher construction in moderate, which is the lowest that we have here in the city. So effectively, everything that is constructed, altered, or any type of construction that's going to be occurring must comply with the high fire construction types. Other than that, the other items that have changed is the pool regulations. The swimming pool in the residential code has been removed. And since it's been removed, it defaults to the building code, which is still there, which is Chapter 3901. However, in the building code, it references the International Pool and Spa Code. Okay. Now, we're not adopting the International Pool and Spa Code. So we can take the language from the International Pool and Spa Code and include that so that we have the security of it, but we don't have to adopt it. Okay? So that's pretty much the changes between the last adopted code and the current adopted code. Or the proposed adoption.
Questions?
None. It will. The state code will say the same. Still going to have self-closing doors. Still going to have a 5-foot high fence, barrier, surround, or substitute devices for motion, for disturbance in the pool, for alarm for opening the back doors out to the pool. So there'll be high notification. So while they took it out, we're not losing any protection for any of the people. Isn't that correct, Tom?
Yeah, so just to clarify, there's two ways to look at it. There's people coming in from outside the property getting to the pool, and so we consider that a barrier. So we want to prevent people from getting outside in. And then there's what we call the enclosure, which there are 7 items that they have to pick 2 of. So to get from the house to the pool is what we call the enclosure protection. And then there's the barrier protection. The enclosure protection is state law. And so what we're doing is a barrier can be an enclosure, and an enclosure can be a barrier. Let me see if I said that right. An enclosure can be a barrier. Okay. So if you have a fence that goes around the pool that meets all the height requirements and self-closing and all that, then you also have included the barrier. If you have a fence around the entire property that includes the house, that's connected to the house, not climbable and all that kind of stuff, then that's your barrier. Then you still need 2 devices to get you from the house to the pool. So you could build another fence around the pool. You can put alarms on the doors. You could put alarms in the pool and a spa if they're separate. There's other kind of, there's those mesh fences that can be situated that's considered also that meets a certain standard, ASTM standard. Other than that,
I didn't understand, I read it a couple of times, but it wasn't clear to me when you've got the pool in the backyard and part of the barrier is like the wall of the garage or something.
Mhm.
And it's attached to it somehow, I'm sure, that's very secure. I didn't understand the language, but that was
so if you have a fence that goes up to the
up to the
garage,
or the wall.
then your barrier is complete. As long as the
sound.
surrounding
Yeah.
is 100%,
Yeah.
that it encloses 100%, then it is considered a barrier.
Right, okay. It was just the language surrounding it that didn't make sense to me, but I guess, I mean, that's how you said it, is how I pictured it.
I have a question. So, make sure that I understand. So you've got a pool back in your backyard, and you have a fence surrounding the house totally,
Mm-hmm.
with a gate.
Yes.
Still have to have another fence around the pool?
No.
Okay.
So the fence that surrounds the property would be your barrier, and then we have to have 2 enclosure devices. So if you put alarms on your doors,
Mm-hmm.
and to any door that goes out to the pool area, then and alarms in the pool, then that meets the enclosure requirements.
So if you have sliding doors going out to the pool,
Mhm.
you'd have to have alarms?
Alarms.
You don't have to,
Well, you-
but yeah, that is an option. Yes, there are 7 items that they can choose from that the state has said meet their enclosure requirements.
If you have a fence around your entire yard, the front yard can only have that fence be, what, 3,
Mhm.
4 feet? But that's insufficient for a pool, isn't it?
Yes, it has to be a minimum of 5 feet, 60 inches, but you can have a 6-foot fence at the front edge of your house or wall.
At your house,
Oh, my house
where
is
your
just,
where your driveway comes in, and the difference between the garage and the house, if you would put a fence there off the south side that went around in a perimeter attached to the far side of the house, you still have that 60-foot minimum, and you still have the self-closing door. And so you wouldn't really have to barricade that front portion
Oh, okay.
of the house, as long as when you had the house, which is part of a barrier or a wall or the garage, you can incorporate all those implements into a barrier. Okay, so.
That's correct.
Yeah. And Tom, we're not having any special other water-saving devices, cleansing devices, ultraviolet devices, any other kind of special devices, electrical, GFI, any of those things that are being put into any changes, no actual construction changes. That's all set.
That's all set. I mean, GFIs, and, exterior plugs require GFIs, and so anything the actual plumbing or mechanical portions, electrical portions of the pool, construction of the pool is still standard. There's nothing there. This is just safety. That's it.
And do we have a water disposal requirement still? I was required to put in a special line to drain my pool in that went directly into the sewer line.
That would be a requirement of the sanitary district, I do believe.
Okay.
No?
Because I
Because-
didn't know if you could put pool water, which is contaminated water, into the street for runoff.
So that's a SWEPS issue, stormwater issue. I would have to double check with Mr. Grant, but I do believe that if you dechlorinate the pool, it can be discharged to the surface. However, saltwater pools are special, and those have to be discharged a different way, because you can't just discharge that into the ground, because then you have salt water being discharged into the aquifers and stuff like that. So I don't think that the sanitary district wants it either, to be honest. But
I don't think that's much of an issue because there's already salts in the system.
in your systems, in the sanitary districts, yeah. I don't know. That would be a question that we would have to go and ask the sanitary district if they're okay accepting it. And then we're gonna go from there.
And my thought was, if you ever get another permit, I don't know how many people are going to be putting in pools anymore. There probably should be some special notification to let people know that they have a different requirement for salt. So,
And I cannot believe that people that have had pools for any period of time are complying with any of this. Whenever I seem to be able to tell that someone has a pool, it's because sometimes there's a hose, sometimes there's a pipe, and it's going right into the gutter.
the water's pumped.
Yes, but you don't believe that. Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay.
Are we ready to take a vote?
No. I have a couple of questions, and I have and this is on page 7 of 7, CBC 3109.1 general. So the state.
7 of
Wait,
17.
Yeah, it's page 7 of 7.
Okay.
If I understand this correctly, have we adopted the state residential code? The residential building code?
The California Residential Code.
Yeah.
It will be adopted as part of this. Yes.
And we haven't passed. Okay. So having said that, that's the language that's being referenced in current state adopted language in the left-hand column. Is that the residential code or is that the building code?
That's the building code. CBC is building.
Okay, that's what I thought. So the CBC makes reference to the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, but the CBC doesn't incorporate it. It makes reference to it, shall comply, but is there some language in the CBC where it says that the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code is hereby incorporated within the California Building Code?
Well, that's the issue. And so
has it already been done? Is it just an issue for this adoption?
No, it was previously like that also.
Oh, okay. Right. So Okay, and then in column 2, proposed Ojai language, general, the design and construction of swimming pools, spas, and hot tubs shall comply with this code. Which code is that? The CBC?
The CBC as amended,
As amended
below.
below.
Meaning-
So shouldn't we put that with the CBC as amended below?
Well, because it's,
Instead of this, is all I'm just saying. I'm being a stickler for.
I mean, comply with this code, meaning the code that we're adopting. I mean,
I'm asking the question because when I looked at it, I said, which code is that? Because now we're on the same
Yeah.
sheet of paper. I see at least 3 references to different
well,
codes.
when it goes into the municipal code,
Yes,
this won't be here.
then it's lost. Once it goes in the municipal code, it's lost.
All you're gonna see in the municipal code is the design and construction of pools and hot tub,
Okay.
pools, spas, and hot tubs shall comply with this code. That's all.
And we don't
this-
want to say with the CBC as amended instead of this.
I mean, we could say with the.
Please, from my perspective, I'd just like to see that be in the interest of clarity.
Can you just repeat that so I can?
Yes, instead of, in lieu of this, we put that spas and hot tubs shall comply with the California Building Code as amended below.
All right.
All right?
I don't have an issue with that.
I have one quick question.
Yes.
In page 1 of 17, the current adopted language says, "and a justifiable cause demonstrated" at the end of the paragraph. In fact, that occurs several times throughout, and yet in the proposed language, that disappears. I'm wondering if there was a reason for that.
The extension shall be requested in writing, and justifiable cause shall be demonstrated.
Across the street from your house for the last 50.
It went from show cause to no cause required.
Right.
Well, I'm just wondering if
Just
that ever...
catch it within the 180 days, and it doesn't matter why.
And that was done intentionally.
Intentionally. I mean, we don't want to expire permits. If they come in, and, I mean, typically they're going to say, I'm still trying to get money together. That's fine.
It also saddens the folks in the building department when they have to listen to really, pathetic excuses, which,
We don't want that.
exactly, they go home
Teary-eyed.
saddened and
I
dismayed.
don't like going home sad.
Tom, I have a question.
All right.
Page 1 of 17, CBC 105.3.2, proposed Ojai language. I'm having a hard time understanding it says, "An application for a permit for any proposed work will be deemed abandoned 180 days after the date of filing, corrections issued, or plan approval unless a permit has been issued." I don't quite understand that.
So if somebody submits plans, what that's saying is that after 180 days, that application can be expired.
Is that what that says, though?
Yeah.
That's how I read it.
Abandoned 180 days after the date of filing, corrections issued, or plan approval unless a permit has been issued. It
Correct.
just-
So the last action that was taken on that application, if 180 days has passed, we can expire the application.
Okay. Now, what happens if a permit is suspended by the city and no fault of what happens if you red tag it and say, you've got to get all this done before, and it doesn't happen within 180 days? Does he have to come back in and resubmit everything again?
So if we have so typically when a permit is issued, we wouldn't red tag anything unless there's like a serious safety issue, and then they have to address that. But we would just issue a correction notice to fix something, and then they have 180 days to call us back for another inspection or request an extension.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, in that case, then let us have a vote.
Chair Ulrich,
Yes.
Member Daddy,
Aye.
Member Murphy. Yes. Farmer, and myself, yes.
I just want to clarify, it's amended with that one correction? Okay.
Is this the only item that we have for review tonight?
Yes, sir.
With that, then, I'd like to take the liberty of engaging with our Mayor Pro Tem. I want to thank Sousa Francina for bringing up a number of items last night. And with that, it brought up some questions, and I thought a number of things that were very disturbing to me and very problematic. I went in and spoke to the city manager a little while ago. And Tom helped me because, you know, you're much younger and you have a much better memory. I'm not really sure how many months and how many meetings. It seems like 3 years and 25 meetings that we went through. And even before here when we had Renee and we went through this entire Title IX. And we had a few speakers say some things that I am concerned about because the city hasn't taken credit for excellent work.
What are you
So,
talking about?
so when we had someone that said, you know, we need to come in and we need to make the houses safer. We've worked for a few years. We may be the only city in California that actually requires a fire alarm in the garage where lots of fires start.
Yes.
We hardened the entire roof. We eliminated shake roofs.
I think you're talking
We
about the man
made-
from Ventura.
Pardon?
There was a,
Oh, no, this was a gal that was, she said, I'm from Oakview and the fire barriers
Okay.
but again,
but these are simply people who don't know the work that we've done.
and I think it's time to have council maybe direct, and this is your job, the city manager, and go ahead and make sure that the community is aware that we have gone through an awful lot of deals. We've changed an awful lot of items. The shake roof, you don't have to have half of your roof blown off anymore to have the insurance company buy you a new one and take the other stuff off. It's down to 10%. We've done an awful lot of things. We've looked at the severity zones. We've looked at the distance between. And so we have been this sustainable, resilient part
Yes, I agree.
of Ojai, and I think the only reason that it's not out there and people don't understand it is because the city hasn't taken credit for it, and I think the city does need to take credit for it. And so, you know, maybe we can have council maybe get proactive with the city manager, and he can write some type of a small article to the paper every quarter, something that says, hey, here's all the things we've done, here's what we've enhanced, here's what we've changed. We have we got 14,000 extra feet of new fire hydrant line for fire suppression. I mean, the city just doesn't sit still. It's always moving. And people will say, well, when did that happen? Well, gee, that happened 3 years ago because again, the city is not taking credit for all the hard work that a lot of the staff here do, you folks on council do, and all your boards and commissions do.
Well,
So,
this is very
there's a-
nice to hear this from you, Bob.
Yeah, but also, did we adopt, you know, like on the vents, on the top, that you have to have that smaller mesh? That's in our building code? For any
That's-
new construction?
That's for any construction.
Well, it should
Yeah.
be, but are people doing it?
Yes.
Because I wondered that last night during the meeting. Well, no one's doing it around me, where I live.
If you do construction, you don't have to go. If construction is being done, if there's an alteration, then anything you touch has to come into compliance with the
But
building
there has
code.
to be some kind of upgrade or construction or something.
Exactly.
You don't
Any-
just do, but every home and every apartment building should, I mean,
We can't force
I
them.
know you can't
We
force-
can't force them to upgrade their facilities, but when they do, then we can tell them you must
but
comply.
at that time, I thought about all this last night too. It would be nice if our city manager knew to say to the audience, to the TV, everybody's listening, what we are doing.
We're doing
and that's,
these.
they don't know that. I mean, you guys
I
probably don't.
agree. I want to chime in, but I'm not the mayor, and we're not supposed to comment and all that. Although I noticed, I was watching another Simi Valley City Council, and they allow a 90-minute response.
Oh.
They can't take action, but you can respond. So that's something I could discuss with the mayor, because many times I want to correct things that are said at the
Right.
podium.
Yeah.
So I agree. It should be corrected right then and there, otherwise people are left with the wrong impression.
Right. But it'd be nice if our city manager would say it at the time when all
Yeah.
that's happening, what
Well,
we have.
again, he can do a quarterly report, and we don't want to do it on the certain quarters where they're going to be impacted.
Mm-hmm.
But you can start a quarter anytime. We can start a quarter in February, and it goes to May, and then it skips over the summer because we have a summer break, and it can come back. But I just, after listening to a lot of people with a lot of questions, I thought, wow, they have a lot of questions about things that we've remedied.
We've already done,
And
yeah,
we
I
spent a
thought
lot of
about that
time
too.
on.
I agree that should be done, but we should also seize the moment because people are watching on television.
Right, yeah.
And they're in the audience. And so at that moment, someone should respond if there's a factual correction that's needed. So I'll raise that. I totally agree.
Yeah, communication is the most important thing we can
Yeah.
do here.
Making
people
aware, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I just want to just let you guys know the next steps on this. Actually, the next steps that we're going to be doing is taking this to council within the next month or so, because we want to get this adopted before the 1st. So there's a time frame that we have to do. There's 30-day waiting period after the second reading, and so then we have to kind of calculate it back. So this is actually going to move back to council hopefully in the next couple of weeks, and then there'll be a first reading and then second reading, and then they can adopt. So
I have something. Oh, is the meeting already over?
No.
Oh, then I'll wait until it's my turn. When it's my turn, I'll come back.
I think we're up to you, actually. It's your turn.
Okay.
It says right here, Building Appeals Board Liaison Report.
Okay, that's me, yeah. As you probably know, the city council has declared a climate, passed a resolution declaring a climate emergency. And last night, we discussed a formation of a climate emergency mobilization committee. And as part of that, we are looking at what's known as REACH codes and gas bans for new construction. I mean, there's different levels that the city of Berkeley, San Luis Obispo, perhaps some other cities have adopted. And I've been listening, some of the other council members as well, city manager, staff. We've listened to webinars explaining how other cities have, transitioned and explained this to the public. So my question is, and it's probably maybe a naive question, are you familiar with how other cities are transitioning from gas to electricity?
Yes, I watched some of those webinars. I've read the entire REACH code. It's really kind of a non-fossil fuel code, and it's a hardening.
Yeah.
And evidently, San Luis rejected the gas portion. I guess they're going to keep natural gas for heating over electric heating. And then they've adopted a whole set of different codes and different kind of, building requirements.
Okay, I haven't read it. I'll forward you what Michelle Ellison sent the council yesterday about San Luis Obispo. But you may be right, but I don't know. I thought they did transition, but I don't know. Like I said, there's different levels. I think Berkeley did an outright ban.
That's what I read, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I'm, I'll be interested to see what advice we get from the, our new advisors, our new climate emergency advisors. So, but I think that we're going to be headed in that direction. Michelle Ellison is definitely pushing for bringing this forward and getting it on the agenda. So and you'll be, I'm sure, involved.
Well, we'll be the ones that are going to have to codify it.
Yeah.
I would have a request.
Uh-huh.
We have a lot of low-hanging fruit,
Yeah, we're working on that too.
like no gas blowers.
Yeah. We discussed that at the end of the meeting last night, and Randy wants to see if what one of these clean air agencies will do a buyback for the remaining gardeners that don't seem to have the funds to electric blowers. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be on the agenda.
Raise their rates.
Yeah.
Because one gas blower operating for an
I-
hour is a Prius driving, not a Prius, just a plain old Toyota driving from LA to Denver.
I know.
That's enormous.
Yeah, it's become a top priority, yeah, after 20 years of discussion. Yeah. No, we have to do that, yeah. All right, is there anything else I should discuss? Any other questions? This is such a short meeting, it's like, whoa, I just got here. Got home at 11:15 last night, so.
We don't always argue till midnight on everything.
No. Thank you.